Wow. Well, thank you so much again for joining us. We're going to go ahead and start, especially for respect of those on time. I hope you all are safe in this difficult and strange times. We have to trust they will pass. In Spain, we had a very bad situation a couple of months ago. Now it seems to be good, but it's getting bad again, and the US especially has been quite hit. So hopefully we need to trust and stay strong, and I'm sure we will get through it and become stronger after the struggle. Thank you for joining this webinar. As you may well be aware, it's about how to obtain Portuguese citizenship by Sephardic origin. However, we will also be discussing how to obtain Austrian citizenship by Ashkenazi origin, as the law has recently been approved and it starts in September, and that may be a possibility for all of those which necessarily do not enter under the Sephardi category. I'm going to share a presentation. I'm going to share a presentation because I think it's easier to follow. However, by all means, at the end of the presentation, we will have some time for answers and questions. If we unfortunately run out of time and I'm not able to answer all the questions, I will email you individually and answer those, me or anybody from my team. And then we will also be sending the presentation and all the relevant information in an email after the call tomorrow. So let me share my computer so you can have access to the presentation. As you can see, this law is a Portuguese law that enables Sephardi descendants to acquire Portuguese citizenship in actually a quite expedited process and without any additional requisites such as living there or talking Portuguese. So it facilitates the process quite significantly. Spain had this law also. Unfortunately, it terminated it. And we do need to take into account that unfortunately governments are maybe following Trump or maybe following the world in general, they are putting more restrictive policies to migration, and which has been heightened by COVID. So even though this law still exists and it's a possibility, we cannot discard the possibility that they may well terminate it also. In fact, the socialist government of Portugal tried to pass a law to change the requisites in order to make it a lot more difficult. Fortunately, that did not pass, and it wouldn't enter until 2022. So even if it does change, we have time to act. But just so to make you aware that if you are interested in a European passport, you do have Sephardi origin, or you do think you have Sephardi origin, I do please encourage you, I strongly encourage you to start the process. Furthermore, there's no risk on your side. We do not charge anything until the Sephardi origin is completely approved. So if you're in doubt, go ahead, write to us, send us your family, reach out, and we will determine if there's a Sephardi origin. And if not, we will not charge anything. And if yes, then you can decide to keep on the process, okay? This talks a little bit about the firm. Our firm, well, we're immigration and tax law experts. We have offices our headquarters are in Madrid, but we also have offices in Lisbon. And we do also have representative offices in Mexico, Caracas, and it's not here, but in Miami, we also recently opened representation offices. Our lawyers are all bilingual, Spanish and English, but we do also have lawyers who speak Portuguese, French, Italian, and Hebrew. So if any of those are your native language, feel free to say so, and we will be more than happy to put you into contact with a lawyer who you are more comfortable speaking in your native language. Also, additionally, our team is trained in the best universities of the world. We're all international experiences. So the message I'm trying to convey here is that you're in good hands. We're in experienced, good hands, especially for something so important as a passport, which is a plan B, which is a joker card if anything goes wrong. You do want to put something like this in people who know the process, who have the experience, who have the commitment, and who know how to deal. Secondly, the presentation deals a little bit about the law. I'm not going to enter into this. This basically is a transcript of the law and the motives of the law. The motives of the law are clear. It's a reparation of the damage done to the Sephardic communities, first by the Catholic Queen, the King and Queen of Spain in 1942, and then by the King Manuel when they expelled them of Sepharad, so that's the Spain and Portugal. And the persecution of the Inquisition. So anybody who is a Sephardic person, is a Jewish practitioner today, or is a descendant of Sephardis, but is not a practitioner today, is entitled to this law. Is entitled to apply to Portuguese law, to Portuguese nationality through this law. This explains the provisions of the law, explain the origin, what I just said. And then it names, which I find very interesting. Oh, one thing I find historically, because I think it's fascinating. Sephardi people, like people think, oh no, because I'm from Poland, I'm from Romania, I'm not Sephardi. No, actually no. When they were expelled and they were persecuted, many went first to the north of Africa, then to the Middle East, but a lot also went to England and Belgium and France, and then to Netherlands, and then to Romania, and then to Czechoslovakia, etc. So it's true that the greatest concentration are in the Middle East and North Africa, and that's Turkey, Syria, Morocco, Libya. Those are the most Sephardi origin countries, but we do have a big population concentration in other countries which won't seem as first as Sephardi, okay? And this is actually said in the same law, as you can read in the presentation. The same law tells you that they fled to the northern of Europe, and then Brazil, until the USA. So there's even a Portuguese synagogue, a Sephardi Portuguese synagogue in Canada and in London. So one in Newport in Rhode Island in USA. So do take into account it's a worldwide situation. So do not rule yourself out of this great opportunity just because you don't come or you do not think you have a Sephardi origin. If you are Jewish, I'm sure we can find some Sephardi root. And if you're non-Jewish, we would need to make a study. That's what we call an Austrian crypto Jew. We would need to make a study of your family tree to see if there's a Sephardi origin. Usually, Mexico, Venezuela, Colombia, Peru has a lot of crypto Jew and Muslim, which we can make it work also. The same law sets a long set of examples of surnames which are not the typical Jewish, like Cohen, Ben Saken, Ben Shimon, etc., that are from an Muslim crypto Jew, Abrantes, Aguilar, Valdeño, all of these, Enriquez, Lara, etc., which are of Sephardi origin. So I just want to reinstate and highlight the fact that you're not a Jewish practicant as today doesn't rule you out of this process. Also, important to note that if you are Jewish, it's a lot quicker process than if you're not, because we do not have to prove the historical link to a Jewish practice. Here are other surnames like Almeida, Alvelar, which is super common, Bravo, Carvajal, Carvajal is Jewish 110%, Crespo, Duarte, all of these surnames, I'm sure that the majority of people who have these surnames, they are Catholic and have no idea that they have Sephardi roots. Here are some many others: Oliveira, Lopez, Machado, etc. The process. Now let's start with the process, which I think it becomes more interesting and more informative. The process is pretty simple. There's 2 steps. First, apply for the certificate of Sephardic origin of a Portuguese Jewish community. The government has delegated the power of determining who is Sephardi, who has Sephardic roots in 2 Jewish communities in Portugal, in Lisbon and in Oporto. I don't care if your local Jewish community gives you a certificate. What is valid and what we need for the Portuguese ministry is the certificate of one of these 2 communities. If you're Jewish, we go to Oporto, and super quick. In the first day or in 2 days, we have a response. I just need to prove your linkage up to a country of Sephardic origin and a certificate of an Orthodox rabbi saying you're Jewish. If you do not, we have loads of examples that we can use, so you can use also with your rabbi. And if you are non-Jewish as of today, but you are you have ancestry, you believe to have ancestry, you can fill in a family tree, which we will send to our historians. We have more than 70 historians of over 50 countries, specialized in different regions, who will tell us in the period of a week or 2 weeks if they see Sephardic origin. If they do see a Sephardic origin, we have to do a historical report and apply to the Lisbon community. Unfortunately, the Lisbon community takes more time in approving. That's 3 to 5 months. So that is why it's a little bit longer if you're non-Jewish as of today. Once we have the Jewish certificate from Oporto, from Lisboa, then we start to recollect the documentation to apply to the ministry, the conservatoria. What do I need here? I need the typical documents of criminal records, which need to be apostilled, a birth certificate, which needs to be apostilled. They also need to be translated, but we can take care of that. A photocopy of the photo page of your passport, notarized and apostilled, and then several of the documentations which we will take care of, and you guys just need to sign, which basically are authorization in order to file a new name, declaration of residence, why you want to be Portuguese, and a couple of others which are of no significance, and you just need to sign. When I have that set of documents, our Lisbon office will present this set of documents in the ministry physically. So you will need to send us a report. Once we apply, they give us a code, and you guys can check the status of that online. It's a 7-step process. It's like a little ball that goes moving on those 7 steps. Usually, once we apply to the ministry, it's an 8 to 16 months process. And once approved, they register you in the Portuguese civil registry, and you are Portuguese. A difference to Spain, in Spain, once you're approved, you had the right to be Spanish, but you had to pledge allegiance to the flag. Here, no. Here, you're just Portuguese. Once approved, you're Portuguese. You have the Portuguese civil birth certificate, and with that, you go to any consulate, and they give you first the citizenship card and then the passport. So that's a process. The process, all in all, takes 2 years. Before it took 1.5. Now with COVID, 2 years. Hopefully, it takes less in the future. Benefits. What are the benefits of a European passport? Well, benefits, even if obvious, you have the right to live, travel, and work in the 26 countries of the Schengen area. This means this includes you, your spouse, and your economically dependent children. So any of them can also study and live and work here. You can travel, that's 150 now, and now it's 185 countries without a visa. That includes the United States of America, because you need an ESTA, which is a visa waiver, it's not a visa. This is especially beneficial for Latin American countries and the new restrictions Trump is imposing. You have access to the Portuguese social security and pension benefits. And here it says 11th, but now it's the 5th most valuable passport in the world. Additionally, not here, but a passport is a plan B, especially Jewish communities have unfortunately come to know this after all the years and centuries. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what problems may arise in a country when you need to flee, and a passport can be the determination of that possibility and salvation or not. That being very dramatic, and not being dramatic, a passport can also be as simple as I don't find my passport and I need to travel and I have another passport, I'm doing a visa and I can use another passport or open bank accounts. For example, I always tell the story that my sister was born in Venezuela. My father was on the oil business. My father insisted so much on her to take it to do the passport. My mother obviously complained because it was a lot of paperwork. And he insisted so much because when my sister is now 37 years ago, the Venezuelan passport was one of the 3 most valuable passports in the world. Right now, having a Venezuelan passport is a serious issue. They don't open bank accounts. They don't issue visas. You have a stigma, even if you're the most honorable person in the world, then a Venezuelan passport supposes issues and compliance problems, etc., etc. So you never know what happens and how the world will change, and the restrictions and the difficulties that may arise, and a passport may well be the key to solving many problems and basically a synonym to freedom. How do we prove Sephardi origin? This talks a lot, but in summary, if you're Jewish, I need a family tree just up to a Sephardic country, so Morocco, Greece, Turkey, etc. Again, it depends on the case. If you come from Poland, do not say no, do not rule yourself out. You may well be able to apply. We just need to find one of the surnames that does have Sephardi roots. For example, we have a couple of clients from Romania, Polonia, that they completely, they said, no, we're not able. And I insisted, we did a study, and some of their surnames were in a Sephardi cemetery register. So we managed to prove that even if from Poland, that surname was used by Sephardi communities. So even though it's a lot easier if you come from Morocco or your parents were from Syria, but do not rule yourself out if it's not a blatant case, okay? And obviously the certificate of the rabbi. If you're not Jewish, what I need is the first step, and the initial step is a family tree up to at least your great grandparents. And with that, we will send it to our historians, experts in the area where your family lineage comes from, and we will determine if there is Sephardi origin. Again, in order for Sephardi approval by the Porto, if you're Jewish, and for the analysis if you have Sephardi origin, if you are Muslim, Crypto Jewish, in other words, that you're not Jewish as of today, but you may have lineage, there is no cost, so there is no risk for you. We don't want to limit this opportunity for people because they don't want to engage in that pre-analysis. Countries with Sephardic legacy, this is what I was talking about before, the typical are Morocco, Turkey, Egypt, Tunisia, Libya, etc. But there may well be Sephardi origin even if your parents come from Bologna or Romania. General documentation required, the typical I just mentioned in any process, nationality process, passport, birth certificate apostilled, criminal records apostilled, declaration of residence, and an authorization for us to be able to file a unit. The great benefit of this process versus others is you can do everything through powers of attorney. You do not need to travel as Spain requested, which is very helpful in times such as these with COVID. Additionally, you do not need to do any type of language exam, any type of cultural exam. The only thing we need to do is one, prove your Sephardi origin, and second, we collect the typical documents you will need to recollect in any bureaucratic process. Frequently asked questions. I'm going to address the questions that the majority of our clients ask us. Underage kids cannot apply through this process. Underage kids need to be over 18 in order to be able to apply for this process. We can make underage kids Portuguese once one of their parents are Portuguese. This depends also on the consulates, because the consulates, each of them are now applying different criteria. But the law allows you to become Portuguese if you're underage and your parent is Portuguese. For the spouse, you need to register the matrimony in Portugal, and after 3 years, you can make it a spouse Portuguese. Again, governments are being more restrictive. So I would suggest, and I would highly encourage, for if there's interest in both parties, for both parties to apply directly for the Sephardi, the Sephardi, and not wait, because we're talking about 2 years and then another 3 years. That's 5 years. There's a big possibility, a probability that the law will change in 5 years. For example, Italy, before it was the same. You just had to be married 3 years to an Italian person. And now, in order to restrict this, because the world is becoming more restrictive in mobility, they now require a language test. Obviously, they haven't eliminated the law, but they have de facto eliminated the law, because now you have to learn Italian in order to get a passport. So that makes it the process a lot more difficult and burdensome. Applications are individual. They're not a family applications. Obviously, it's easier if we already have one approved, that if the father is already approved, they cannot tell me that the kid is not Sephardi. It's an easier process, but each application is individual in the Jewish community and in the ministry. You can't do family applications because maybe a passport is an individual document, so the application is individual. That doesn't mean that we can make a discount if you're a big family, that obviously, but each person needs to make their individual application. You do not need to live in Portugal, you do not need to reside in Portugal, and you do not need to speak in Portuguese, as I said before, in order to apply to this law. And the Portuguese law specifically says that as it's a reparation and it's a citizenship by origin, you do not need to renounce to any other nationalities. So do take into account that you have no risk in losing other nationalities, okay? We have processed, well, here it says more than 1,500, but we've processed now more than 2,000 applications for citizenships based on Sephardi origin in Spain and Portugal. We have never been rejected any case. And we have, more than 15 countries, no, we have done Sephardi for more, at least 50. We need to update this presentation. But it's a great opportunity. They're going to take it out. They're going to take it out because it's normal. So if you are interested, I highly encourage you to do the work. It's not that much work. It's not a burdensome process. It maximum takes 2 years, and you have a European passport. I'm now going to stop the screen. If I manage to do this, there you go. I see I have a question. Will you be posting the recorded webinar? Yes, we will. We will also send you all the presentation and our email address in case you have any other questions. Also, a question I get a lot is the names of the partners, which mean non-Jew and non-Jew. We apologize for our surnames, and actually it's quite ironic because we have now become the majority of our client base is Jewish due to this law, and we've made great friends. And actually, Goy has been proven that it's Sephardi. Like a lot of the Sephardi, in order to hide from the Inquisition, what they did is put Catholic names, for example, Santa Maria, Santa Clara. All of these surnames, those are Sephardic. And Goy, and for example, the famous painter Goya is Sephardi also. I'm also now I will answer your questions, but I would also want to take advantage now that I have you. In September, we already have prepared like 100 applications, but we haven't applied yet to any because the period for application has still yet not started. But the 1st of September, Austria will enable us to apply for Austrian citizenship for descendants of those persecuted by the Nazi regime and left the Austrian and Hungarian Empire before 1955. Just give me a second. After speaking so much in water, but please, this and do take into account in detail what I'm saying. First, it's the Austro-Hungarian Empire. This is a lot bigger than Austria. This means Czechoslovakia, Polonia, a lot of more territory than just Austria. So if any of your Ashkenazi friends or you have Ashkenazi roots who lived didn't have the passport, lived in the Austrian-Hungarian Empire and fled because of Nazi persecution before 1955, also take into account the date because the war ended in 1945, and before it said 1945, but now they expanded to 1955. So if they left the Austrian-Hungarian Empire before 1955, because of Nazi persecution, they are able to apply to the Austrian citizenship. They're entitled, and we just need proof. It's very similar to the Portuguese process. You don't need to be Jewish now, and you don't need to. Your ancestry doesn't need to be Jewish also. You need to have fled because of Nazi persecution. This means if you were homosexual, if you were persecuted because of your race, if you were persecuted because you tried to give safe passage or protect the Jewish community, if you were for the monarchy, any of those reasons will entitle you to an Austrian passport, which is again one of the best in the world, and of a European passport. So now I'm going to proceed and answer questions. Eric asks us if I have Spanish heritage but only thin evidence of Portuguese, can I apply for the Portuguese passport? I know it's too late for the Spanish. Yes, unfortunately it's too late for the Spanish, but if we can certainly 100% do the Portuguese. Please do take into account, we're talking about Sepharad. Sepharad includes Spain and Portugal. So if you have ancestry from Navarra, you can apply to Portugal without any type of issue. You just need to prove that you're Sephardi, and Sephardi is Sepharad, which includes both countries, which by the way, when they expelled the Jewish communities, Spain didn't exist as such. It was the kingdom of Castile and Leon. So again, it doesn't matter the area where your family comes from, as long as it's from the Península Ibérica, which I'm sorry I don't know how to say in Spain, but basically it's Spain and Portugal. Regarding I have another questions about the timing. Usually a count with 2 years. Since we start, 2 years. If you're Jewish, it's a little bit quicker, just because the proof of Judaism, Sephardi, is quicker, but it does Anusim also, but it takes a little bit more of time. I'm not sure if anybody else has other questions. How do I prove heritage if I'm not Jewish? Well, if you're not Jewish, what we would ask for the person is to fill in a family tree. We will send you the form in the informative email for you to fill in, and we will send it to our experts, and they will tell us if they see Sephardi origin, And if they see Sephardic origin, then we can start, we can do the historical report, the application, etc. What is the expected cost to go all the way through the process? So, Maury, I don't usually like to talk about costs in a webinar. Every person is a particular case. The cost is not at all expensive. It's more expensive if you're not Jewish. For example, and this is why I don't speak about general costs, because, for example, we have an excellent guy, great guy, which has now become our friend. His name is Ronnie. He left Syria as a refugee. He left Syria over 18, so as a refugee, and he has a US passport. The problem is he doesn't have a US birth certificate because he wasn't born in the US. And we can't get the Syrian birth certificate because there's no records of him as a refugee in Syria. And Portuguese law requires that if you're a refugee and you flee the country, you don't need any type of document of that country as long as you're underage. So we've had, because if we take the commitment with the client, and he's obviously happy, we will make that application. It takes less or more, but for example, we've had to get into contact with a Syrian lawyer to get the birth certificate. Then we may have to make a statement that he doesn't have a birth certificate, a US birth certificate, for a Portuguese person that they don't understand how you can have a nationality and not a birth certificate of that country, etc. So every person is a tailor-made solution. We actually take pride that our law firm offers tailor-made. We're a boutique law firm, and our values are excellent, loyalty, and results. Excellent because we offer the best quality possible. Loyalty because the loyalty to our clients and commitment to our values. And results because we like to deliver. I lived 6 years in the States, 5 years practicing as a lawyer, and I do understand that the theory is fantastic, but you do need to deliver, and we manage by results. So in that sense, we do like to see every case as a particular situation, a particular case, talk with the person. We always make a call with the person, talk about the situation, their personal circumstances, but to answer your question, it's at a very affordable price, and it's not at all outside market, it's within market. How to make your, they're asking us about how to make your kids Portuguese. Once you're Portuguese, as long as your kids are underage, once you're Portuguese, we can make them Portuguese. Please note that the consulates, each consulate, so you will make them, so for example, if you live in LA, you will go to the Portuguese consulate of LA. Each consulate has the criteria, even if they don't, but they have their practical criteria. So they're each of them with different circumstances and requisites, but in general, there shouldn't be an issue, and it's a pretty straightforward situation in order to give nationality for your kids. We've had a lot of demand usually for now with Brexit from people, usually Americans that have UK passport, but that now that UK is out of the European Union, a Portuguese passport, or maybe an Austrian, if you're Ashkenazi, is a great opportunity in order to have that continent covered. For example, I have a Spanish passport, I have the UK passport because I was born in the UK and lived there for a while, Argentinian and Italian, and I am applying through the GOI to the Sephardi, for the Sephardi process. I truly believe that a passport is an asset that you can't really put an amount. In Spain, we have, which I'm sure you're all aware, an investor, which my law firm does tax and immigration and corporate, but our core is tax and immigration. We do a lot of investor visa, what is called the golden visa. Golden visa in Spain, and it enables you residents, if you invest in Spain, 500,000 euros in property. Obviously, the property hopefully goes up and you don't lose investment. But in Spain, we have a transfer tax. Transfer tax is 6 to 10% of the value of the property. That is tax that you will not recover. It's not like the capital and the investment you will recover. But that transfer tax, we are talking about a minimum of 30,000 euros. And that gives you residence. It doesn't give you citizenship. In order to become a citizenship, you need to live and pay taxes in Spain for a period of time depending on your nationality. So when people talk about cost, I truly believe that the cost is minimum. I mean, if you compare it to a golden visa or a green card process in the States, it's infamous, the price compared to the benefits of what a citizenship can grant you, because once, especially a citizenship by origin, which is this, not by residence, etc., because a citizenship by origin, they can't take it away. Whatever you do, they can't take it away. Oh, another benefit of the Portuguese passport, which obviously doesn't apply to the majority of people, but I always joke with clients that if you are thinking of doing bad stuff, Portugal is your passport, because it doesn't allow extradition. So if you have a Portuguese passport and you're in Portugal, no country in the world, not even the United States of America, can extradite you. So obviously, first recommendation, be good, don't do anything bad. But if you do something bad, a Portuguese passport is a great option. Anyways, I don't see any further questions. So I am going to go ahead and start finishing it up by thanking all the people in our spectators. Thank you so much for your interest. Please feel free to email me with any further questions about the Portuguese citizenship, about the Austrian citizenship, or any other questions you may have in immigration for Spain or tax in Spain. If we will send you an email with the presentation, my contact details, the family tree, if you're an Usim people do to fill in. So you can go ahead and start with that if you want. And we are at your entire disposal, and we look forward to working with you and helping you get that freedom which a second passport supposes. So thank you again, and hopefully talk soon.